Our purpose at WE is to change the dismal statistics of our people, particularly Māori and Pasifika people. We do this through helping small and medium-sized businesses to thrive. Our businesses need our help. So many have felt the pressures of lockdown and are facing challenges that they've never faced before. Challenges that are impacting their livelihoods. That is why we're bringing you this series, to share stories of the people behind our businesses, their successes, their failures, their challenges, and their triumphs.
If you are already in business, we hope you will be inspired. Perhaps someone will share one piece of gold that makes a difference in your business. If you've been thinking about starting a business, we hope that you will be motivated to start your own business venture.
We hope that by sharing these stories, we can help small businesses on the road to recovery all across New Zealand, Australia, and the Pacific.
So grab your cup of tea and whakarongo mai.
Kia ora te whānau nau mai, haere mai. Welcome to our cup of tea this evening. Tonight, I am joined by none other than James, who comes to us from Cradle. So welcome, James. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much, Wendy. It's great to be here.
So now look, Cradle, anyone might think that that's something that a baby sleeps in, but I know that that's not the case. So tell us a little bit about what Cradle is.
So Cradle's the latest business that I'm involved with, and we're a pretty small team at the moment. We're New Zealand based and we build software, and what we're trying to do with our software is help businesses, possibly businesses such as yours, have really good, meaningful conversations with your customers. So we want to make the phone a non-scary place and one where people can delight their customers. So yeah, cloud-based phone system, great for things like COVID-19 because it works anywhere. It works at home and in the office. And the case of WE Accounting, I believe you got people up in Samoa using our service up there. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment. I'd also like to just mention that I've got another business which I started about 15 years ago called Spider Tracks, and probably a lot of the stories that I'll tell tonight will come out of that business and blend into some of the Cradle story as well.
Okay, so now you're going to tell us what Spider Tracks is.
So I'll tell you, I'll give a bit of background to Spider Tracks. So do you remember when Michael Ursig was flying down to Queenstown in 2005 and he crashed his helicopter, and there was a really big search that lasted like 2.5 weeks, I think. Do you remember that?
Not really, but keep going.
Okay. So there was this helicopter crash, and the guy who crashed, wealthy guy, and it took ages to find his helicopter. Now at the time, fresh out of uni and working for a guy who himself was a helicopter pilot. And this problem that an airplane, a brand new like multi-million-dollar helicopter could go missing just seemed ridiculous in 2005. So what we set out to do was to make something so that the pilot, but also people on the ground could see where that aircraft was when it was flying around, so that A, they knew where it was, they knew how far away it was, and more importantly, if something went wrong, they knew straight away where to go and look for it, whether that had bad weather or the aircraft had broken down or, you know, God forbid, that crashed, they'd know where to go and look for it. So yeah, we started Spider Tracks to basically to save people's lives, to help find an aircraft when it went missing.
Wow. And that was 15 years ago that you started that?
Yep, so that was, that helicopter crash was actually 15 years, you know, plus or minus a week or two from now. And it was after that that we started building Spider Tracks, and we started selling in like late 2006.
Jeepers, that's incredible. Oh, there you go. I've just learned something about you, James.
Yeah. Well, like before that, so like maybe I'll tell you a bit more about my upbringing, my background. I'm a country boy from just outside of Palmy. I grew up on dairy farms near, in the Manawatu. So Bunnythorpe was where my parents lived when I was born. And then we moved to the northern Wairarapa. So I spent a lot of time as a kid down the farm. I had pet calves. When I was about 6, I think I got my first pet calf. And there was this kind of this loan arrangement where Dad lent the calf to me, and then I had to buy it off him at the end of the season when it got sold for what it was worth when I got it, and I got to keep the difference. So I guess that was like an early form of entrepreneurialism that my parents taught me without really trying to teach me that. So yeah, grew up on the farm, rode motorbikes, spent a lot of time fixing motorbikes, pulling things to bits, much to probably mum's disappointment or frustration. Yeah, went to Palmy Boys after that, and ultimately ended up going to Massey University and doing an engineering degree.
Wow. And then you end up in business. So, I mean, I know that, the helicopter and stuff, that would have sparked an idea in your head, and you would have noticed that there was a gap in the market. But what made you decide to go into business in the first place?
I think I was always going to end up going into business, to be honest. So my parents were obviously farmers, and that in itself is a business. They had bought cows and gone share milking in the late 70s or early 80s, and then been in business all throughout that really tumultuous period in the 80s when Roger Douglas was doing his thing. I remember, I think I did the GST for the first time when I was about 11 years old for mum. So it was always something that I was well and truly aware of, how the whole business works. And to be honest, I think I'd make a terrible employee. So it was probably a pretty natural fit that out of uni, having worked for someone for a little while, I ended up going into business with the guy who I started that first job with. I remember there was a day there. So my brother, when I was starting that business, he actually and he was no hair, and he was like 38 kilos or something, and he's there sort of fighting for his life, and I'm there going, I don't know if I want to start a business. I'm scared that it might fail, or this might happen, or that might happen. And he just looked at me and he's like, what have you got to lose? And when someone who's fighting that hard to keep themselves alive says something like that to you, you kind of, you go, okay, cool, I can do this. I'm sure I can do this. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, that's really cool. Inspiring from your brother. And so true, because what do you have to lose, really? I mean, if it doesn't work out, go get a job.
Exactly. You'll regret not having tried for a much longer time than you'll, feel a little bit of financial pain or a little bit of stress. So yeah, it's well worth it if you're the sort of person who enjoys, running your own profession, I guess, or your own business.
And so it must have gone okay, because you've been in business, in your first business, for 15 years. So how has things changed? How has life changed for James since being in business?
So yeah, it has gone okay, and Spider Tracks was such a cool learning journey for me. Obviously, we started off really small. There were just a couple of us, literally in a shed, just north of Ashurst, and trying things, driving around the country in a rented Toyota Corolla, trying to sell these things to people. And really, as an engineer, not having all of the skills that I needed to run a business, so not really knowing much about sales or marketing or anything like that. But I was 22 years old, so knowing how to work with a team, especially people that you were hiring, was not something that I was strong at. So in order to grow and keep that business running, there was a huge amount of learning that I had to do. So that's a big part of how life's changed for me. It's like, what do I need to learn to get to the next step? As you said, Spider Tracks has been somewhat successful, and I think it's been more successful since I left, to be honest, which is a testament to the team that are there now. I'll have a little humble brag here, but Spider Tracks were a finalist in the High Tech Awards last month, which was really, really exciting and really cool to see the team that's in there now sort of keep taking that business further and further. For me, that journey of roughly 10 and a bit years when I was working in the business every day was absolutely a roller coaster. And there were amazing highs when things that we'd been trying worked, when sales that we'd been chasing came off and we got orders in about 18 months, so about 2007, we got this inquiry from Cessna. So we got the Manawatu standard did an article on us about how we were saving lives with this product. And someone in Wichita, Kansas read that article somehow and emailed us and said, hey, we want to talk to you guys about buying some of your products. And like, come 6 months later, they put an order in for 125,000 US dollars, which for us was just like a year's worth of turnover at the time. So that was super exciting. And then those, of course, are tempered by the things that haven't gone so well. So, you are in business, and it's a bit like a marriage, except it's with lots of people, and it's with the business itself as well. So when things aren't going bad, that can be going so well, that can be super stressful, and that can be something in the market. It can be an economic downturn. Of course, 2007, 2008, we had the GFC. Now we have COVID, so there are parallels there, I guess. But the learning to ride those waves of highs and lows, and with that, learn how to do all of the things that you need to do in your role has definitely been a big learning and changing process for me. So yeah, I think that's probably a good answer to that question.
It's been an interesting journey for you, and I just want to make a comment. Like you said that after you left, they won an award, but something that I read is that a great leader, the business does really well after they leave too. Like you can come in here and you can make a business great, but if you leave and it all falls apart, then actually you weren't a very good leader to start with. So I think that's a true testament to the work that you did do while you were in there. So congratulations on your award.
Yeah, that's very Jim Collins. Thank you. Yeah,
we read the same books.
yeah.
So I mean, obviously your brother has been instrumental because he got you to start in business. Who else have been some of the people who have helped you along your journey? Some of the people who have been your biggest supporters, mentors? Yeah, who's helped you out?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'll call out my brother again. So during Luke's recovery, he'd gone to uni a few times but never finished anything because the cancer had come back and kind of got in his way. But he, about halfway through 2008, he started coming into work with me. And like slowly, day by day, he was able to do more work and more work and more work. And then I remember by about August, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a holiday. I think I need a week or two off. So I went to London or the UK or somewhere. I went somewhere, and he just goes, right, I'll just do what you do. And he took over everything. And when I came back, he was like, you go and do something else. I'm fine. I've got this. Work on something more important. So that was of those learning steps that I was talking about, that was a big one. And he kind of pushed that just by being competent at what he did. Other people, definitely like my family, and that's not just, family in the nuclear family sense, but my uncle has helped with putting money in, and his business partner came as an investor to both Cradle and Spider Tracks. My parents, obviously, they've been huge supporters and have both from a financial perspective and from a moral support perspective, because this is hard. You have days and weeks where you don't want anything to do with it, and there's got to be someone there to lean on, and mum and dad have definitely been a large part of that for me. Beyond mum and dad, even my grandparents, they've put money in to help us along. So just there's been a really strong network of family support behind both Spider Tracks and Cradle, which is really cool. I think I'd like to call out New Zealand as a legal person, as a thing, as a group that has really helped what we've done. And I've got a cool story. So in 2014, so 6 years ago now, we were trying to sell spiders, which is what we call them, to a government agency in Mexico. And I don't speak Spanish, and different cultures do things differently. And like the United States is weird enough for me without even considering what the Spanish part of North America is like. So we had this call from our likely customer in Mexico. They said, we need to see you, and we need to see you tomorrow or next week or something. And I was in Texas at the time. I thought, okay, cool, I'm going. So I booked my flights, got on a plane, and I was like, I don't speak any Spanish. I don't know where I'm going. Mexico City's like 25 million people or something ridiculous. I have no idea what I'm doing. And New Zealand Trade and Enterprise are so amazing when this sort of thing comes around. And we had a really good account manager at the time, who I think doesn't work there anymore. But I called New Zealand. They called the New Zealand embassy in Mexico City, and there was this guy was waiting for me from the embassy, and he took me to the hotel. He picked me up the next morning, and he took me to this meeting with the Mexican government. And I can't say how much difference it makes to sit down in a meeting with a representative from the New Zealand government who speaks Spanish and who does all the interpreting for you. It gives you credibility. It shows that New Zealand's behind you, and it also obviously makes the language very easy. So that's been really, really cool. I think New Zealand as a country has some huge advantages, and New Zealand businesses, especially exporting businesses, can leverage that New Zealand story and those New Zealand connections offshore. I think it's also like New Zealand market has been a really good place for the businesses that I've started as well. New Zealand is we're a little bit inclined to support ourselves, right? So we'll support a Kiwi company, and that's pretty cool, even if it's not quite as good sometimes, or a bit more expensive, or whatever it might be. We make up for it by being good sorts, and Kiwi companies have generally gotten behind us. So that's a really cool part of being a New Zealand company, I think.
I'd have to agree. And I think that's one of the things that we like to do too. It's like, well, let's just support a Kiwi company, because we know that it's going to go to our families and our communities, and we're supporting our own. Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. That's really cool. I love that story about New Zealand Trade Enterprise, and it is cool how we have each other's backs. It'd be nice to do it more often, but and we're so just our Kiwi ingenuity is incredible too, I think. So the technology that you're working in, the space that you're working in, is so awesome. Like, these awesome things come out of our little old country with just 5.1 million people we've got now.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, we do some cool things. Yeah,
we definitely do. So you've had some pretty big challenges, some pretty small challenges as well along the way, as we do in business. So tell us a little bit about some of those. What are some of the little challenges that you've faced?
So I think, and when I was making notes for this, I was thinking about sometimes it's easy just to focus on the big things, and I think it's also hard to distinguish what's a big thing and what's a small thing. And in the rearview mirror, it's often easy to sort of post-rationalize all of this into big things. But learning lots of little things has been it's been both challenging, but also it's added up to a huge improvement in who I am and who and what the businesses that I've been involved with and the teams that I've been involved with have been able to achieve. I've done, I don't know how many communications courses I've done. I don't know how many leadership courses courses and events and things that I've been involved with to try and become better at working with my team, and trying to find the right team, incentivize the right people in the right way. And little challenges, whether that have those days when you've got someone on your team and you're thinking, oh man, have I hired the right person? Do I need to do I need to sit them down? And then if I sit them down, what is the employment ramification that sits behind that? So there have been lots of little challenging moments like that, and you could package them up as a big thing, but I would say the little learnings along the way, often little challenges that add up to big things at the end. Probably, and I don't know if this is a little thing or a big thing, but when you start your own business, you've got this idea, this dream, and you want to control where the business goes to do that. And I think part of being good in business is finding the right people, and as I said, building that team and learning to manage them. And you need to or I needed to develop humility and a sort of a humble approach to delegating the things that needed to be done, to bringing my team on a journey and then letting them row, as it were, because you can't do it all yourself. You need that team, and your job ultimately becomes to inspire and lead and provide the long-term direction for that team. So yeah, that's a whole lot of little challenges that have made up that little bit of learning, I guess.
A whole lot of people challenges.
So I don't know how many people I've worked, have been on the teams that I've in the two companies now, but it's well over 200. It's a lot of people. It's names that I can't even remember. And yeah, so some of those experiences have been fantastic, and obviously some of them haven't been. But I always try and be generous with the people that are on the team, and ultimately take responsibility for our decision to hire them, and then give them the right tools and the right structures to be successful. And if they're successful, we'll be successful.
That's so true. And that's a really valid point too. We're the ones who hired them, so we have to take that responsibility. And if we haven't given them the right tools and they don't know what they need to be doing, then you've got no one else again but to blame but yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
All part of growing a business, and some of the reasons why some people don't want to go any further than just being a soulpreneur, doing it on their own so they don't have to manage people.
Yeah, it's a really different set of skills, and I think I come from an engineering background, right? So I was a sort of a nerdy, passionate guy who likes to, I love to find a problem and then solve it. That's kind of who I am with Cradle. So I was so frustrated at Spider Tracks that our customers couldn't just pick up the phone and talk to the right person. And obviously, our customers are spread all around the world. There are like pilots in Alaska and aircraft operators in Namibia and South Africa and sort of all over the world, any time zone, any place, with whatever local phone capacity that they've got. And people struggle just to pick up the phone and talk to us, which for me is a really key part of being in business with someone. It's a relationship, and you need to be able to talk to people to form and build those relationships and that trust. But here I was looking at this problem and I was going, there must be a solution to this problem. But for small to medium-sized businesses in 2014, I was having this problem. There just wasn't. So yeah, for a guy who did engineering, grew up on a farm, replacing chains and sprockets on motorbikes and spark plugs, and every now and again tinkering with the exhaust to annoy my father. Learning how to do the other things is definitely a challenge. Yeah,
absolutely. Are there any big obstacles that you've had to overcome over all of these years in business? Maybe one of the biggest ones that you want to share with us and how you overcame it.
I think, yeah, I'll tell it. So.
Do I share this one? I'm not sure. Hold on, let me just think about that.
So I alluded earlier to the fact that business is like a marriage, right? And in all of the business, both of the businesses, I've had business partners, and this is not. I'm not going to put blame on anyone here, because everyone's responsible for communication and for maintaining relationships and being clear about what they want and their expectations. And I think all of the really big obstacles have arisen when the relationships with the team who own and run and share this passion for this company aren't aligned. When you haven't communicated properly and you end up at odds with each other, you've got different ideas and you can't resolve them, and you're unable to deal with what life throws at you in a way that's constructive for the business and the relationships between those people. And when it goes bad, and it has, like both of these businesses have had situations where people have gone, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. maybe it's me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just hard to be in business with, or maybe it's just hard to be in business. And after a certain amount of time, not everyone wants that. They don't want to be fighting that. So the big challenges have always been the breakups. It's hard. It's like getting a divorce. It's emotional. You both share this passion for something, and then it sort of dies inside one person. So that's been tough, and it takes a lot out of you. And it's at those times when you need the support. In my case of like mum and dad and my partner and other people in my life, so that I can get through and then come out the other side with the business in a better place and stronger, more sure of who it is, with a team that's impassioned to go and do what it is that we want to do for the world.
Yeah,
I mean, it is. I look at you two, and I admire you being in business with each other and living with each other and having kids with each other, and think, wow, there must be like, when do you sit down at the dinner table and go, hey Ellie, how was your day today?
No, that's like we like know everything about, well, not everything, but almost everything about every part of our day. Yeah. We spend more time together too than I think most people also think. If you think from the outside that we spend lots of time together, we actually spend even more time than that together. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, you're so right though. I mean, it's one thing to be a business owner and to have a team of people that work for you, with you, but under you as such. But it's a whole different thing to be a director with somebody else, like to own a business with somebody else. And you're so right, it's just like a marriage. And it can go so wrong. What's Ali saying? Ali says, I'm working. He's commenting, I'm working. He's always saying, I'm still working. Yeah, but it is. And, Ali and I have seen best friends break up, marriages split. We've seen it all. Yeah. It is tough, and they say, with a normal marriage, you fight a lot about money. Well, imagine what that's like in a business when you're just, there's no real security. It's not like someone's just going to pay a paycheck for you no matter what. You're out there hustling all the time, especially for small businesses.
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, that financial pressure, there can be days when that's real, man. That's when the wages are due, and there's, maybe it's $20,000 worth of wages, and there's 10 grand in the bank, and you're like, I don't know where the extra 10's coming from. But like, it's not all doom and gloom, right? We wouldn't do this if it didn't work. So obviously, there's a whole lot of good stuff that happens. And as I alluded to earlier, roller coaster rides, like when stuff's good. Like, another thing, in 2008, we won the Manawatu Business Awards. We were only like a year and a half old. And that was like the highest of highs. Especially, we just started, we got the whole team up on stage. I know that you guys have just been announced as another, a finalist in the Zero
Awards.
Which is really, and winning those sorts of things, getting some recognition from someone else, you never experience that if you just go and work for someone. It's never the same as what it's like when it's like your child.
Yeah.
Especially at the start.
So like a child. I don't even think it is, like, even 9-10 years later, it's still like a child. You put your blood, sweat and tears into it. And it's probably even harder, like even with your children, because obviously I have children, but like, you don't want to put too many expectations onto them, and you want to make sure that they have their own lives and make their own decisions. It's quite different with a business though, because you have expectations that you want to meet, and you're putting those expectations on.
Yeah. and the expectations are like, well, the outcomes are almost a function of how well you do. So it reflects, it's this really either positive or negative reflection, or, feedback loop against yourself. Am I doing well at work? Well, there's no money in the bank and I can't pay the wages this month. Oh, maybe I'm not. Or, oh, look, we've done really well. We doubled our sales in the last 6 months. Or someone else has said, this is the best product ever, let's buy it. Or let's award them with something. There's some such cool stuff that you get in business that you'll never get working for someone else.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap up, if you look back on your journey, what's like one thing that you want people to learn from your time in business?
So I'll start by saying that it can be really lonely. And you can feel like you're trying to support this team that you're working with, and there's no one there supporting you, and you don't want to lean on your partner too much, or your parents, or whoever it might be. But I think the thing that I would say to combat that is have good advisors. And I wrote this not even thinking of you guys. It's true. Have good advisors. Have a board if you can, or one person who comes in and just acts as that sounding board so that you don't go crazy in your own little echo chamber. Ultimately, you're going to make your own decisions, but if you've got other people that you can talk to and really bounce those ideas off, it'll help you frame up your decisions in a much better way. Provided you're open-minded, of course. Having an open mind is always good. I think talk to your customers, talk to your team, talk to your family, talk to your customers especially. They'll know more about where your business or your product or your service is doing well and where it's not. I think a lot of us really don't talk to customers enough. We think we know what they want, but until you ask them, you're never going to know.
That's so true.
So yeah. But
those are some really good tips.
Yeah, don't be lonely. Cool. Talk to people.
Don't be lonely, talk to people. And if you can do it via Cradle.
Yeah, I was trying not to. It seems really pitchy when I put it like that, but it's not meant like that at all.
But it's so true. So yes, we use Cradle at WE. I don't know how long we've been using Cradle for, but a good couple or so years at least, I think.
Yeah, I'd say 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah. And to tell you what, so we're going completely remote. Well, we're going to set up some shared spaces, but Cradle has been awesome for us, particularly over lockdown. I didn't have to worry about my staff using their own cell phones or using their home phones, wondering how I'm going to get in contact with them. We talk to Samoa all of the time. It's just pick up my laptop and go, and there you go. Got my office all set up basically, so it's been awesome. So so if you guys want to know more about Cradle, cradle.io, you can go and check them out there. But yeah, Ali and I use it, we use it, we love it. Can't say anything bad about it. And you and your team are awesome too. We love working with you guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much for being with us today, for sharing your insights, and for just all your knowledge, your insights, and I learned a whole lot more about you too, which is pretty cool.
Cool. Thanks, Wendy. And thank you very much for the invitation. It's been cool to come along and just have a chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody else, tomorrow we are here again, 8 p.m. with Bernard. He works in insurances as well as a whole bunch of other things. So he's coming to us live from Sydney, our first one from Australia. So make sure you tune in tomorrow night at 8. And James, once again, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thanks.
Mā te wā whānau.